Hello everybody, Oroboro here, and today I wanted to talk to you about my first hour with Dark Souls 2. A big thanks to Namco Bandai and Jay, their community manager, for sending me an invite out to their event in San Francisco. It was amazing. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and just to get a chance to play the game, it was fucking awesome. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record our own gameplay, but I've gathered screenshots and other gameplay to demonstrate. I believe it goes without saying, but this video will have tons and tons of Dark Souls 2 spoilers. If you don't want to get spoiled, I recommend you turn off the video right now. So, let's hop right into it. In the beginning of the game, it shows a cutscene similar to the Cursed trailer. It's edited, modified a little bit, and it ends with you jumping into the Soul Whirlpool, or whatever the hell it is. You spawn in this giant grassy field, and you have seemingly no weapons. Your character at this point is some sort of anonymous being. The first thing I did was check out the awesome gestures. I wanted to see if, what is it was still in the game. Although I didn't see it in the gesture menu, I can assume you learn it later. There were some amazing gestures. There was one that was a war cry, and you just like kneel down and put your hands like up in the air like you're holding the Lord Vessel. It was fucking funny. After I messed around with the gestures for a little bit, I looked into the stat page. I noticed that resistance is no longer a stat. It's just completely gone. What they did was they tied it into agility and made it a completely new stat. They both got nerfed to balance it. But resistance and agility are now tied into one stat. Another thing I noticed is that there's 4 ring slots. That's right, 4 ring slots now. That's going to change a lot of things, let me tell you. Like, the ring choice is going to be awesome. I think it's going to give players more choice. And more choice when you're making your build is always good. There's a new UI. It's completely revamped. It looks good, man. It looks really good. Anyways, I stopped messing with the menu and I started to explore, because I really didn't know what the hell was going on. Eventually, I walked into this field with this ugly-ass, like, fuck, I don't even know what it is, what you'd even call it, like, meerkat motherfucker. I called them meerkats, but god, that was like a creepy-ass goblin cat thing. So I saw one, and I sort of ran up to it with my fist. I wanted to punch him in the face. He started running away from me. I started to chase him. You know, I wanted him dead. Eventually I caught up to him, started wailing on him, just punching him in the face. About 5 seconds later, the whole meerkat gang, must have been like 6 or 7 of them, just come up behind me and infinite stunlock me to death. And I'm greeted with the all familiar message, "You died," on the screen. Respawning at the starting point, I figure messing with the meerkats is not the best idea. I ran straight past him into this little hut. The second I walked into the hut, I was greeted by the 3 seers you may have seen from the trailer and the innkeeper. It immediately triggered this cutscene where they sort of explain hollowing and how when you die you lose souls. And they sort of make fun of you. They're like, you're gonna die again and again and again, and it's gonna be freaking hilarious. I'm like, wow, these seers are just completely rude. How the cutscene works is they sort of tell you how the game mechanics work inside of the cutscene, and then they're like, what is your name? And then the name prompt comes up right there in the middle of the cutscene. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a nice little touch. And immediately after that, they start to look at your face. And that's when the character customization activates as well. The character customization this time around is ridiculous. It's out of freaking control. It's nothing like a Souls game has ever seen before. It's more on par with the Skyrim character creation in how many like things you can adjust on your character and your character's face. The big things I noticed was their confirmed tattoos and beards. Since we only had an hour with the game, I wanted to skip the character creation and go straight into the gameplay. The next tab showed the available classes. I believe there was around 7 or 8 of them. The ones I can remember off the top of my head are Bandit, Explorer, Gadgeteer, Knight, Sorcerer, Swordsman, and Deprived. The quote-unquote classes that were in the Dark Souls 2 beta aren't in the final game. Those are just builds put together for you guys to be able to play. Similar to the E3 demo of the original Dark Souls, where I had Solaire and the Black Knight available for play. Now, the Gadgeteer was really awesome because he had a fucking monocle, and he had tons of consumable items to use, like witching urns and firebombs. There's another thing. The starting classes also gave you different starting items, which I thought was a nice touch. I ended up picking the Swordsman because he had the Wanderer stuff on, and he had a Scimitar. That was sort of GG for me. Unfortunately, the new Scimitar, aka Falchion moveset, doesn't seem to hit more than one enemy at a time. It doesn't have those wide swings, so I don't think it's going to be so good for killing gankers or more than one player at a time anymore. It still works really well as a single target rushdown weapon though, and I did pretty well with it in the PvE. There was also a couple of gifts. Off the top of my head, there was a black firebomb, I believe. There was a human effigy. There was a ring similar to the Tiny Beings ring that gave you a little bit of health. There's some other things I can't quite remember. And there was also an item that when you burned it at a bonfire, it made the game harder in some way. So that was really cool. And of fucking course, there's the troll-ass item. The pendant counterpart. I forget the name of it, but basically the description was like, this might be useful someday. And I'm like, okay, we're not picking that shit. So I went with the ring. So after you finish making your character and picking your class, the cutscene ends and you're thrown back into the game. I immediately checked upstairs and found a chest with a human effigy in it, so that's a pro tip for you there. So I walked outside the house and I ended up finding a hidden path inside some bushes. As soon as I walked out of the bushes, I found these giant tracks. I walked up the small hill and I found this giant ogre hippo sort of thing. I'm just going to call them the hungry hippos. I wanted to kill him immediately, so I ran up and just started swinging to see how much damage I do. It was not working in the slightest. Like, I barely hurt him. He turns around, because he wasn't looking at me, and he starts slapping me around, and he pretty much myrtleized me in a couple seconds. I respawned at the starting again, ran back. This time, instead of attacking him, I sneaked around him, and I realized that it was all just a freaking circle. Now, as I'm running in circles, Ty, the dreaded cone, is playing the game next to me, and he says there's a door inside the hut, which I missed. So I go back in the hut and open the door, and sure enough, the first bonfire is right in front of me. So I follow the path after the bonfire, and there's branching paths. There's 2 side paths with fog gates and a straight path. So I'm like, okay, it has to be the one with the fog gates. I go through these fog gates, and I soon realize that I'm stuck in the tutorial. There's stones that tell you the mechanics of the game, how to attack, how to dodge, etc. And you can actually break these stones, and you wouldn't know what to do, which is sort of funny. As I ran around the tutorial, I found a nest with none other than Silky the Crow. Now, I saw the nest, and I knew exactly what was about to happen. I was getting ready for it. All of a sudden, this high-ass pitched voice goes through my headset, and it's like, Silky, Silky! And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was actually like that. It was so bad. It was fucking hilarious. Anyways, I didn't try to mess with Silky. I climbed down the ladder and soon realized that I was in another fucking circle. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try the other fog gate. Again, it's another part of the tutorial. I find a dagger in this fog gate, and I didn't really get to use it that much. I get through this path, and I soon realize that I'm again in the fucking circle. So I go straight, and sure enough, it's the way forward. Before I go completely straight, however, there's a side path I wanted to look at. It leads down to a coffin by the water that's guarded by the angry hippo, the hungry hippo. Super curious, I run down and speed run into the coffin, soon to realize there's another hungry hippo hiding behind the wall, and they're all trying to wail on me, but thank God the coffin had invincibility frame. I got in the coffin. It looked exactly like the Papa Nito animation. You get in there, and the screen goes to black. A few seconds later, comes back, and I'm in the same fucking spot, and these hippos are ready to murder me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell happened? What is this? So apparently something did happen, but I have no idea what, because it wasn't immediately obvious, and I had no idea. This time I take the forward path and end up entering the town of Majula, and am immediately treated by some spooky ass music that was very, very eerie and sort of creeped me out. I rested at the bonfire there and started to look around. I found a divine blessing, and I was like, oh no, please no. I actually tested it, and it takes like an hour to use that thing. It is like, it's not the divine blessing we know and hate from Dark Souls 1. It takes forever to use it. Just forever. It's so easily punishable. And I said, thank God FromSoft actually realized that was a problem. So, no, thankfully, no more Divine Blessing spammers. Anyways, I noticed a lady in a green cloak called the Emerald Herald. I ran up to her and started talking to her. She gave me a single Estus flask. That's right, one fucking Estus flask. I was like, okay, thanks, I guess. After she gives you the flask, she tells you you have to kill the 4 lords for their souls, and that you must kill King Vendrick and become the new king. So this immediately reminds me of the first game, where you have to kill 4 lords and put their souls in a lord vessel. It seems like this game is taking the same sort of structure. This Emerald Herald was the only way to level up. You don't level up at bonfires anymore. Every time you level up, you need to talk to the Emerald Herald. It's sort of reminiscent to the Maiden in Black from Demon Souls. So after I was done talking to her, I ran up to this giant monument, and I noticed the Crestfallen Warrior 2.0 was sitting there. You start to talk to him. He's still the old, same depressing voice and telling you everything's going to be a bad time. If you talk to him enough, he lets you join the Way of the Blue Covenant, which automatically summons Blue Sentinels to protect you when you get invaded. You can actually join the Blue Sentinels later in the game. After I talked to him, I went up to the monument itself and checked it out. And to my surprise, the prompt on the screen said, worldwide deaths. That's right, worldwide deaths. And the second I read that, I was like, this number is going to increase so quickly on, like, day 1. March 11th, this number is going to skyrocket. I was like, I don't even think they know how bad people are at their game. Like, this number is going to go off screen the first day. Like, oh, God, it's going to be amazing. So that was actually really awesome. So after I saw that, I went down and I noticed a blacksmith locked outside of his house. I couldn't really do anything there, so I moved on. So as I was exploring, I found a giant hole in the middle of town. And here it is in the screenshot. It looks like you can fall down it if you're careful, similar to Demon Souls 2-2, when you take the shortcut to the Flame Lurker. There's actually an entrance down there, but I didn't bother going down there. There was another house I went into where I met the merchant, and I couldn't buy anything. We had like 0 souls the entire playthrough. I didn't have enough to buy any of his stuff. There was some cool shields and swords and all sorts of stuff there. And we didn't have enough souls to level either. Throughout the entire hour of game session, like, we got no souls. Just 0 zilcho. From what I've played, the early game is just an absolute complete nightmare. Anyway, so I kept on exploring the town, and I unfortunately found 3 little piggies hiding in a corner. So I go up to kill them, and soon realized they were fucking nigh invincible, so I ran the fuck away. I ended up running into a house with a talking cat, similar to Elvina. Except this wasn't like a Cheshire cat, this was like a house cat. It was really, really weird. She talked like Elvina, and apparently she let you join a covenant, but I didn't get to talk to her that much because seconds later, the piggies ran into the house and started biting my legs off. I immediately panicked and ran out of the house, and I stumbled into a statue that lets you join the Covenant of Champions. And apparently this covenant makes the game harder. I don't know if it's like a Gravelord thing, or just scales the enemies up to like New Game Plus 7, or I don't know. As I was reading this, the piggies fucking come up behind me and just myrtleize me. Welcome to Dark Souls, I guess. When I respawned, I started to look through my inventory and realized I picked up a gold pine resin. I'm curious as to what it looks like in this game, so I used it on my scimitar. And let me tell you, that is the coolest effect I've ever seen in a Souls game. And it's just lightning pine resin. It made your whole weapon glow, similar to Cursed Weapon or Light Weapon from Demon Souls. It was like this yellow glow, and it had like all these lightning bolts, and it sounded fucking awesome. After I found that out, I tried to consume some souls, and I got a prompt to use more than one item at a time. That's right, you can use multiple items at once. Thank fuck. After I mess around with my consumables and stuff, I go to explore some more of the town, being careful not to aggro those fucking pigs, because they will fuck you up. I eventually find some different branching paths, and I end up going down one. Went down the spiral staircase, and halfway down it, I found this red shield. I didn't end up using it at all, but go some more down, and get to a sewer-like gate that reminded me of the Blight Town entrance. There was no way to open it, so I head back up. The path I chose is supposedly the quote-unquote correct direction to go for new players. It's called the Forest of the Fallen Giants. As I enter this area, I look to the other screen to see the Moonlight Greatsword. My friend Ty headed in a completely opposite direction and found an NPC waiting outside this gate with the Moonlight Greatsword. It reminded me of this achievement shown, and what happens next is really, really weird. So obviously Ty myrtleizes him to get the sword. He drops the sword called the Blue Moon Greatsword. It has no scaling and 28 strength requirement. The description is, the blade of this greatsword shines like the brilliant rays of the moon. In the oldest legends rarely spoken of today, it is said that the sword was born of a great white being. Then what explains the lifeless weapon? Perhaps there has been some mistake. This led us to believe it's either a fake or a replica. There was also no laser beam R2s or anything fancy like that. It didn't have the laser beam R2s in Demon Souls, but I feel like it should have it in this game. Anyways, I thought that tidbit was really awesome because I love the Moonlight Greatsword. So anyways, I look back to my screen and continue through the forest. There's a bunch of easy hollows there that die in like 2 hits. I find a bonfire there, which is nice. The second I walk out of the bonfire, I see all the enemies respawn, and I try to fight them all at once, and I end up getting super ganked. I respawn again and manage to kill them all without any problems. So I got to this circle-y area, and I find Evil Sunbro, which isn't really Evil Sunbro, he just looks like Sunbro with the bucket helmet without the sun insignia. There's 3 enemies that ambush you the second you get into this area, but Evil Sunbro is sort of just chilling there on the ground. I went up to talk to him, and you couldn't talk to him at all. You could, however, lock on to him, so I decided to try to kill him and see what he drops. I begin fighting him, and immediately just get completely destroyed. He was really, really difficult. I died, I think, like 4 times to him before I finally got him. His attacks were crazy unpredictable. Like, he swung around all crazy, and sometimes he'd give you his back, and then immediately stab you in the face. So he sort of baited the backstab fish, and then just decimated you. It was sort of funny. Anyways, I finally killed him, and he ended up dropping the Night Sword, which I equipped, and I didn't really like the moveset. I wasn't a big fan, so I switched back to the Scimitar. And as I was swinging around the Night Sword, testing the moveset, I get shot in the face by an archer above me. I looked around for a way to get up to him, and I found the staircase leading up. I had to jump across this narrow pathway onto his platform to kill him. After I killed him, I tried to fall down because I didn't want to walk all the way back, and I barely survived the fall damage. At this point, I realized my time is running out, and I just start like running through enemies, just like trying to kill them as fast as I can. I go down a narrow corridor, and a guy comes up behind me and hits me in the back of the head and stun locks me to death. I run back to the stairs and kill the guy that sneaks up behind you, and I start to move up the stairs, and I get to the top of the stairs. I get hit in the back of the head with a firebomb, and two guys jump on me and kill me instantly. I finally manage to get past everything and open up this gate, to which leads to a room with a bonfire and a merchant inside. I immediately recognize this room from the E3 demo. I didn't bother talking to the merchant, although I do hear he sells the key to the blacksmith's room. I take the stairs down, and I run past the hollows that are getting up. I thought the door was open, but to my surprise it ends up being locked, and I get trapped in this small doorway and get completely myrtleized. As I die in this small doorway, my time is up. So overall, Dark Souls 2 is, so far, from playing the first hour of the game, harder than any Souls game I've ever played. Now, there are a couple of things I missed that other people found out about the game. Apparently, there's a ring that enables voice chat. I don't know exactly how it works. Apparently, it only works with your co-op partner and not invaders. And I believe both of you have to have the ring equipped, or else you can't hear each other. There's also a co-op ring, in which you can engrave 10 different deities, and if you pick a certain deity, it makes it easier to summon from other players who pick that certain deity. So it's basically a system to allow you to play with your friends more easily. I thought that was really awesome. Another thing they added to the game is that enemies stop respawning after 15 or so kills to prevent farming and make boss runs less tedious. I don't know how I feel about this change. At the same time, it's good because people can't farm in certain areas and overlevel it. And in another aspect, if you keep on dying in the same area, it will eventually get easier and easier. Another new thing they added in Dark Souls 2 is there's an enemy called the Pursuer that stalks the player and spawns in random locations. Sort of like a vagrant, but that's really creepy. I don't know what they're going to do with that. And another important tidbit is that there's apparently a way to reset your character's stats. I don't know how this will be done, or if it's even true, but man, that would be nice. So there you have it, everybody. That was my first hour of Dark Souls 2, and let me tell you, it was fucking amazing. The game is incredible. All of my fears about the difficulty have been completely thrown out the window. Although it may get easier as time goes on, I still think this is a Souls game, and it's going to be amazing. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Dark Souls. And I hope you guys are as excited for Dark Souls 2 as I am. Prepare to die on March 11th, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.